Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what truly determines the quality of a person's work? Is it the number of hours put in, how busy they appear? Or is it something quieter, a set of principles that silently guide how we show up and make decisions each day? Through a collection of timeless, straightforward principles, research and wisdom across the ages have opened up a different way of thinking about work. Work is not simply about getting things done. It is about learning how to choose, how to focus, and how to take genuine responsibility for what we are pursuing. So here is the real question. In the middle of this fast-moving, option-saturated world, are we working with intention? Or are we simply drifting on autopilot? Welcome to MindForce. Today, we are going to walk through 8 principles of effective, sustainable work. Principles drawn from great thinkers, writers, and philosophers who lived these ideas before they wrote about them. Stay with us until the end. You might just find an approach to work that fits you better than anything you have tried before. Before we get into the 8 principles, let us step back and look at why having a framework for work matters at all. Today, there is no shortage of opportunity. What we often lack is clarity. Every single day, small choices appear in front of us, choices that carry more weight than they seem. Do I move fast or do I move carefully? Do I follow my mood or stick to my goal? Do I look out for myself or do I consider the team? Without a solid reference point, these choices get swallowed up by short-term pressure and reactive thinking. That is where a set of working principles becomes essential. Think of it as a compass. It does not confine you, it orients you. It helps you find your direction and recognize the lines you should not cross, especially when things become unclear. Work is never purely a personal story either. When people on a team share common principles about how to act and how to decide, coordination becomes cleaner and more effective, and principles are only truly tested when pressure arrives. It is consistency in how we work, not a single impressive result, that builds real credibility and shows the depth of our maturity as professionals. So what does a genuinely effective set of working principles look like? Clear enough to guide, flexible enough to apply every day. Let us find out. Effective work does not begin with enormous goals. It begins with an honest understanding of your own capacity and circumstances. When you set targets that far exceed your current abilities, you slip very easily into a state of desperate effort. The goal stops being a source of motivation and becomes a source of pressure. And prolonged pressure, unrelieved by small wins, steadily erodes your belief in yourself. Oversized goals are a double-edged sword. Repeated failure at targets that are genuinely beyond your reach does not just exhaust you, it is more dangerous than that. It kills your confidence. When you grow accustomed to not finishing things, the will to act quietly becomes paralyzed, often without you noticing. This is why Goethe advised young poets to begin with short poems before dreaming of epic masterpieces. Not because they lack talent, but because that is the most sustainable path to going far. Big work always starts from the easy part. For complex, long-form projects, rather than trying to resolve everything at once, begin with the simplest piece. When the road ahead is too long to travel in one stretch, breaking it into stages is not a sign of weakness. It is a mark of intelligent thinking. Completing each small section gives you something concrete to point to, and that momentum carries you forward. Attitude also shapes how you act. Some people assume everything will be easy and then feel deflated when reality pushes back. Others assume everything is too hard and never begin at all. When you are clear-eyed, you recognize the truth. Nothing is truly effortless, but nothing is truly unreachable either. With patient, persistent effort and sensible organization, what looks complicated gradually becomes manageable. And on the subject of patience, working 10 hours a day will not automatically make you brilliant. Natural ability matters, but talent without persistence sleeps quietly. Someone once said that genius is sometimes simply the result of patience sustained long enough, and that patience is built from small, steady, unhurried steps. Effective work does not live in short bursts of intensity. It lives in the ability to maintain a steady rhythm day after day. This second principle sounds simple. It is anything but easy. Work regularly. Do not let it be interrupted, because it is continuity, not flashes of inspiration, that creates the foundation for real progress. The writer Emile Zola carved a phrase into the wall of his study: "Not a day without a line." In practice, he wrote thousands of lines each day. But the spirit of that motto is everything. It held him to a steady discipline. It reminded him that work is not about waiting for the right feeling. When the time comes, you sit down and you work, regardless of your mood. By contrast, the pattern of working frantically day and night and then resting for weeks only creates the illusion of effort. It does not build depth. Great work begins with small habits. This principle applies to every form of learning and craft. Just 15 minutes a day, every single day without fail. That small habit, repeated with persistence, quietly trains the mind and builds long-term capability. People who accomplish large things rarely rely on bursts of enthusiasm. They rely on routine. The historian and thinker Liang Qichao recorded very ordinary examples of this. Someone who reads a few dozen pages daily, someone who keeps a diary, someone who practices calligraphy each morning before the day begins. These activities seem unrelated to great achievement, but the act of setting a manageable personal standard and holding to it without deviation, that is the highest expression of human character. Anyone who watches closely will see that inner strength does not live in grand gestures. It lives in the ability to keep promises to yourself every day. Do not wait for inspiration. Just begin. There will be days full of energy and days of dull weariness. But experience shows that if you simply sit down, pick up the pen, the mechanism inside you will warm up and begin to run on its own. If you allow yourself to delay every time the mood is not right, you are in fact feeding your own laziness. When everything is prepared, the desk in order, the plan in place, the only remaining step is to show up on time. That said, consistency only produces results when you are moving in the right direction from the beginning. Whether entering a new field of study or stepping into a new kind of work, the first thing you need is not the fastest shortcut. It is a return to the beginning. The foundational elements of that discipline, the basic concepts, the elementary ideas, the pieces that seem almost too simple, these are the only reliable path to going far. No shortcut is sustainable when the foundation is still unstable. The most common mistake is impatience. We want to become skilled quickly. We want deep understanding right away. We want to reach the higher levels of knowledge before the lower steps are even steady. So we skip stages, we take shortcuts, we overlook things that seem minor but are in fact decisive. But knowledge and skill do not operate according to the logic of hurry. The cost of moving too fast is usually having to start over. A weak foundation means a fragile spirit. Most of the inner failures people experience, the discouragement, the loss of direction, the self-doubt, do not come from being incapable. They come from a foundation that was never solid enough. When you do not understand something at its root, every step forward becomes a stumble. You feel overwhelmed. You feel not smart enough, when the real problem is that you started building the roof before the walls were finished. There's no shortage today of people who discuss complex theories and impressive-sounding concepts while their foundational knowledge remains foggy. People speak about Einstein, about the cosmos, about vast and lofty ideas. While the basic principles of elementary mathematics remain unclear, that kind of learning does not make you deeper. It leaves you standing on a hollow ladder. Returning to the basics is not a retreat. It is an act of courage. The courage to admit you do not yet know, that you are not yet solid, that you are not yet enough. When you accept moving slowly at the beginning, you are giving yourself the chance to move further, more steadily, and with far less confusion later on. And once you understand that not everything must be learned at once, that not every path is yours to walk, a more important question comes into view. Knowing how to choose begins with the courage to look honestly at your own abilities. Not every kind of work suits every person. Not every opportunity that appears is worth taking. A person works truly effectively only when they understand where they are strong, where they are not, and where to invest their energy. Choosing well means you are not scattered. You are not chasing expectations that exceed you. And most importantly, you are not burning yourself out pursuing goals that do not belong to you. Once you identify the right path, you need the courage to follow it through. Not out of stubbornness, but because you understand that consistency is a prerequisite for depth. You can become a writer, a business builder, or a policy thinker, but very few people can do all three well at the same time. The ambition to carry too many roles at once typically produces mediocre results across the board. Focus, however, does not mean locking yourself into a monotonous single track. When you concentrate too deeply on one thing for too long, your sharpness and energy gradually decline. Deliberately shifting pace, weaving in healthy breaks by moving to a different kind of activity. This is not distraction. It is a strategy for maintaining endurance. Think of it as having one main center of work, the place where you invest most of your time, energy, and responsibility, alongside a few secondary activities that serve as mental anchors or creative refreshers. This balance allows you to develop depth in your primary work while protecting yourself from the burnout that comes from relentless repetition. Effective work is not about doing more. It is about organizing and directing your attention with intention. And once you have identified what needs to be done and found the courage to pursue it, effectiveness will only appear when you learn to protect your working hours and make them a discipline. For anyone who takes their work seriously, time is not simply the space between activities. It is a living asset, and treating your working hours as sacred is not merely personal discipline. It is a duty. That duty demands the ability to remove what wastes time, especially unnecessary interruption. Being polite and accommodating has its place, but when it goes beyond a reasonable limit, it becomes a mistake. Every time you allow a meaningless interruption through the door, you are quietly cutting pieces away from your own working life. Goethe warned directly and without apology that someone who wants to do useful work in the world must learn to protect their working space. Unexpected visits, unannounced conversations, open-ended emotional conversations that stretch on without purpose. All of these can become dangerous thieves of time. Goethe's apparent coldness when disturbed may sound extreme. In reality, it was a form of strict discipline with himself. He understood that if he did not set his own boundaries, no one would set them for him. He was equally selective with correspondence. Letters that were self-promotional, rambling, or purposeless were set aside. Only what brought him closer to his work and his goals deserved a response. The same applies to meetings without purpose, conversations that wander without destination, and the habit of consuming news about distant events over which you have no influence and no responsibility. If you spend your morning hours anxious about upheaval happening far away, where you play no role and hold no power to change anything, that is simply another way of wasting the one life you have been given. Guarding your time also means keeping emotion in its proper place during serious work. People with large ambitions must accept a certain kind of sacrifice, not the sacrifice of feeling, but the discipline of knowing when and where feelings belong. Unchecked emotional turbulence and prolonged personal preoccupations silently erode concentration and the will to act. History shows that those who built lasting legacies rarely allowed personal emotions to eclipse their work. The story of Edison's wife is a quiet but powerful illustration. She treated her husband's working hours as something sacred, untouchable, undemanding. That understanding and restraint became a foundation beneath one of history's great careers. Protecting your time does not stop at keeping distractions out. It extends to how intelligently you organize, use, and conserve every minute. Whether time feels long or short depends on how you live inside it. For the lazy, time drags endlessly, something to be killed and made to pass. For those who love learning and working, the days are never long enough. A life can be short, like those of Pascal or Spinoza, and yet so full that others spend lifetimes thinking about what was accomplished in it. Conversely, a long life can be dry and hollow as a desert. It is not the duration of time that determines the value of a life. It is what you do inside it. Consider the hard arithmetic of a working life. Take 60 years as the span of an adult life. Subtract childhood and sleep, and the time available for conscious, intentional living is perhaps 30 years. But those 30 years are further worn down by meals, bathing, illness, fatigue, social obligations, correspondence, rest, and endless small necessities. When everything is accounted for, the time genuinely available for intellectual labor may be 10 or 12 years. It is hard to sit with that thought and remain unmoved. And here is the quiet irony. Those who are most free tend to waste the most. The person tied to hard labor for survival has less freedom, but often fewer illusions about time. But if you are a student or someone with hours of unscheduled time, that is a genuine privilege. The question is how you use it. In 1 hour of study, how many minutes are truly spent in thought? How much time dissolves through mechanical note-taking, idle conversation, wandering across a dictionary page, or drifting through a newsfeed? Perhaps 20 focused minutes in an hour is already ambitious. And even those 20 minutes, do you hold them fully? Distraction comes from the smallest things: a fly landing in an inkwell, a cat on the roof, a door blown shut by wind, a car starting outside, looking up a word in the dictionary and getting pulled toward the words beside it, opening an illustrated book and letting the eyes drift. A headline catches you. Just a minute, just a glance. But that one glance can sever the entire thread of thought. A passing daydream, sparked by a few familiar words, can take minutes without leaving a trace. Those who truly value time do not wait for the perfect moment. There is a story of a scholar who used the morning minutes while his housekeeper tidied to write the preface of his dictionary. Another thinker named Dajiso, rather than growing impatient waiting for his wife before meals, quietly used those minutes to write. When he finished, he handed her the pages and called it his appetizer. Great works are sometimes built entirely from moments that other people throw away. And once you have learned to honor every minute and use it to begin, the next principle follows naturally. This seventh principle sounds almost too obvious. Whatever you start, finish it. Do not leave it needing a second visit. But that very obviousness is what makes it so easy to overlook in the rush of daily work. Finishing is a habit, not a mood. Completing a task the first time around is not a matter of spontaneous energy or ideal circumstances. It is the result of a seriously cultivated habit. Lord Chesterfield wrote to his son, "There is nothing easier. Simply do one thing at a time, and never leave anything for tomorrow that can be done today." When you train yourself to focus on one thing at a time and act on it immediately, work stops being a burden that gets dragged forward. It becomes a clear, unbroken current. Moving quickly and finishing badly are not the same thing. Rushing to appear done typically produces errors that demand more time to correct later. A piece of work done properly, with full attention, care, and responsibility, saves enormous time downstream. The habit to build is refusing to accept doing things halfway, doing things reluctantly, or doing things carelessly just to get them off your desk. Confucius, in The Doctrine of the Means, emphasized this spirit of following through completely. If you study something, study it until you truly understand it. If you ask a question, ask until you have a real answer. If you do something, do it with everything you have. If someone else achieves it with 1 unit of effort, be willing to give 10 or 100 until you reach the result. That persistence is what transforms the incomplete into the complete, the weak into the strong, the dim into the clear. When you build the habit of finishing things properly, you are not just completing tasks, you are completing yourself. In discipline, in responsibility, and in self-respect for what you are capable of. But to sustain that focus, that persistence, that full-hearted effort day after day, you need something that cannot be taken for granted. a sound body supports a clear mind. If you want to work effectively, you first need what might be called abundant health, a body that is genuinely strong, not just to withstand the intensity of work, but because physical vitality is the core condition for maintaining mental alertness and clarity. When the body weakens, when illness quietly moves in, the mind grows tired, scattered, and less capable of sound judgment. For intellectual work in particular, poor health is not a minor inconvenience. It is a serious, slow-moving obstacle that erodes both productivity and the joy of working. The cost of burning the body down is higher than it looks. There are talented people who stop far too early because they never learned to care for their health. People who work through the night, sustained by strong tea, coffee, and cigarettes folded into small, airless rooms. They believe that trading health for time is a smart bargain. But illness arrives quickly, and a promising future gets cut short when a person is barely into their 30s. Even the greatest talent struggles to bloom on an exhausted body. Epictetus said that a person's true happiness lies in a body free from pain and a mind free from turmoil. And he was right. A calm spirit cannot be separated from a healthy body. Your health shapes your temperament, your thinking, and even how you see the world. When the body is weary, every thought becomes heavier and darker. Building good health does not require extraordinary methods. It comes from ordinary habits: eating well, nourishing but not excessive, moving the body with reasonable regularity, not punishing it, breathing fresh outdoor air with sunlight and wind when possible. Keeping the spirit genuinely cheerful is also a precious medicine. It helps the body recover faster after difficult stretches of work. Of all these factors, sleep holds the most important place. But sleep is not simply more is better. Sleeping too much slows circulation, creates sluggishness, and leaves the mind dull. What the body needs is enough sleep to genuinely recover. The right amount varies, and it depends on the season, the nature of your work, and how deeply tired you are. You know your body better than anyone else does. When sleeplessness comes, and it is not caused by alcohol, coffee, or eating too late, it is usually a signal that you have been working beyond your limits. Stop the intellectual work. Go outside into open air. Let natural sleep return on its own. Prolonged anxiety also agitates the nervous system and disrupts rest. Walking outdoors, breathing space and light is one of the most effective ways to improve circulation. And the thinking that happens while walking is often some of the deepest and most creative. Herbert Spencer and many other great thinkers found their best ideas while walking in nature. When the body moves in a steady rhythm, the mind moves with it. More flexibly, more openly, more inventively. After 10 in the evening, the best practice is to stop all serious work. Nothing depletes health more quietly than late nights spent in unhealthy habits or the slow accumulation of sleeplessness. Rest hours should lean toward outdoor activity, gentle restoration, and protecting the body from yet another cycle of overload. Every one of these principles, when you look at them closely, is not really designed to make you into a particular kind of worker. It is designed to make you more aware of yourself, of where you are, what you are missing, and what needs to change. Working well, like learning well, is not about collecting as many rules as possible. What matters is understanding deeply enough to absorb the principle into your natural behavior in ways that fit your circumstances and the person you actually are. Some people need tight structure to stay on course. Others need room to breathe or they will suffocate themselves. Some principles unlock something in one phase of life and need to be revisited, adjusted, or even let go in another phase. The real danger is not in knowing too little. It is in believing you already know everything and using rigid rules to box in both your work and yourself. These principles are not templates to copy. They are invitations to reflect. They only become truly valuable when they are digested, when they are folded into your experience, your choices, and the friction of your daily life. Perhaps maturity in work is not the ability to recite principles without hesitation. Perhaps it is knowing why you should follow a principle in this moment and when it is right to do something different. So, Beyond what we have talked about today, do you have a working principle of your own? Something you have discovered through experience? Something quietly effective? Something you have never quite heard anyone else name? Share it in the comments. MindForce would genuinely love to hear it.